Are live on the Next News Network. It's time for Between the Headlines. It is July 1st. Welcome to summertime. We've got some news we're going to be breaking down today. Lots happening on the White House front. We're going to get you all the details in our White House briefing at the top of the show. And then we're going to go into further details about the new Air Force One, its maiden flight, and more on that trip to Teddy Roosevelt's Presidential Library. Some remarkable events happened there. As well as we've got more news on Iran. We'll bring you the latest there. Also, the latest out of Chirac and so much more. But first, let's get our White House rundown. Good evening. I'm Gary Franchi, Next News Network Chief White House Correspondent, delivering the latest White House news from the past 24 hours here with our streaming partner, Trump Daily Post. Tonight's rundown starts in North Dakota, where President Trump tied America 250 to Theodore Roosevelt's legacy with a presidential library opening, a ribbon cutting, and a presentation of Teddy Roosevelt's Medal of Honor. We'll also take you through the president's travel day, his remarks on the economy, and negotiations abroad, and Vice President J.D. Vance's military-focused stop in Virginia Beach. The White House day centered on President Trump's trip to Medora, North Dakota, where he delivered remarks, officially opened the Theodore Roosevelt Presidential Library, and presented President Teddy Roosevelt's Medal of Honor to the library as a loan from the White House Roosevelt Room. The White House and the Allied administration accounts, they pushed patriotic imagery throughout the day, tying the event directly to America 250 and to what President Trump celebrated on Truth Social as America's Golden Age. And according to the daily guidance, the president's schedule included travel to Medora, participation in the Freedom 250 train ride and welcome ceremony, a tour of the Theodore Roosevelt Presidential Library, and remarks later in the day. From the Pool Report, the presidential motorcade left the White House at 8:08 a.m. Eastern to begin that travel day. Also from the Pool, President Trump arrived at Joint Base Andrews at 8:25 a.m. and traveled with family members and senior aides, including Eric Trump, Donald Trump Jr., Bettina Trump, Interior Secretary Doug Burgum, Representative Julie Fedorchuk, Stephen Miller, Caroline Leavitt, Monica Crowley, Natalie Harp, Margot Martin, Chris LaCivita, and others. And from the Pool Report, President Trump boarded Air Force One at 8:40 a.m. before heading to North Dakota. In a brief gaggle before boarding, he praised the aircraft, pointing to a rising stock market and falling gas prices, voiced optimism on negotiations with Iran, and said the United States could control 50% of the chip market by the end of his term. Also from the Pool Report, Air Force One, the new Air Force One, lifted off at 8:53 a.m. The traveling press noted that the new aircraft upgraded press section and limited access during the flight. And also from the Pool Report, the president landed in Bismarck at 10:35 a.m. Central. And the press noted on board monitors separated compartments and plans to move quickly towards the Theodore Roosevelt events. Also from the Pool Reports today, President Trump stepped off of Air Force One at 10:48 a.m., met Senator John Hoeven, and boarded Marine One at 10:50 a.m. for the trip to Painted Canyon. Also from the Pool Report, Marine One landed at Painted Canyon at 10:50 a.m. Mountain Time, and President Trump boarded the motorcade at 10:55 a.m. for the Freedom 250 train. The White House Pool marked it as the first rail travel of President Trump's presidency and noted the historical connection to Theodore Roosevelt. Also from the Pool, the Freedom 250 train arrived in Medora at 11:28 a.m. Mountain. The train rolled in dressed in red, white, and blue, with cars carrying the phrases "We the People," "Freedom, Liberty," and "United States of America, 1776 to 2026," while the crowd greeted the president with chants of USA. Also from the Pool Reports, the motorcade rolled to the Theodore Roosevelt Presidential Library, and from there, the president arrived at 11:47 a.m. with Rough Rider reenactors on horseback escorting the motorcade during the drive. The White House said that the president's tour included the train exhibit, journal exhibit, campfire exhibit, AI President Theodore Roosevelt exhibit, and the Man in the Arena speech exhibit, alongside Interior Secretary Doug Burgum and Library Executive Robbie Lauf. And from the Pool Reports, during the tour, President Trump praised Theodore Roosevelt as a great man, called the state a great place, and said he was getting some ideas for his own presidential library. Also from the pool reports today, President Trump and Secretary Burgum took part in a reading of Theodore Roosevelt's Man in the Arena speech inside a curved gallery where the words filled the wall. The pool also noted that the president's voice will be featured delivering the excerpt when the museum officially opens. President Trump entered the Barry Auditorium at 1 p.m. Mountain to a standing ovation and delivered remarks with the North Dakota Badlands visible behind the stage. In those remarks, they wrapped at 1:05 p.m. Also, the president's motorcade then left at 1:08 for the Burning Hills Amphitheater, arriving at 1:11 and entered a packed patriotic setting where many attendees were red, white, and blue as music played over the loudspeakers. Secretary Burgum introduced President Trump at 1:24, and he walked on stage to God Bless the USA. On the vice president's side of the schedule, the White House pool said that Vance traveled to Naval Air Station Oceana in Virginia Beach to deliver remarks celebrating 250 years of American military excellence, with Air Force Two departing Joint Base Andrews at 10:41 this morning. Also from the vice president's pool, he arrived at 11:33 a.m. to large American flags, a 250 Years of American Excellence banner, and fighter jets near the stage, where he was joined by Representative Ken Kiggins and Veterans Affairs Secretary Doug Collins. Also from the pool, after his remarks, the vice president greeted service members, shook hands, took selfies, and offered early 4th of July wishes before boarding Air Force Two. In his gaggle, Vance backed Representative Kiggins, praised Justice Samuel Alito, and said any next step with Iran depends on Tehran's actions, while stressing President Trump's order to negotiate in good faith. The pool later said that Vance returned to Joint Base Andrews at about 1:02 p.m. and then departed at 1:26. One vice presidential pool email contained an incorrect reference to Kamala Harris, but the rest of the day's White House movement and reporting made clear the vice presidential travel was J.D. Vance's Virginia Beach trip. That's the White House picture from the last 24 hours. President Trump put patriotism, history, and executive presence at the center of the day in North Dakota, while Vice President Vance carried the administration's military and veterans message in Virginia. Now let's move from the White House beat to the rest of today's top stories and welcome you to the broadcast. Thank you for joining us on this edition of Between the Headlines. Yes, it is July 1st. We're just a couple days away from the big celebration, America's 250th birthday. What are you going to do? How are you going to celebrate America 250? I want to hear your plans. Drop them in the chat. Reply in the comments. And we're going to get started on, we're going to give you some more details now on that remarkable trip to the Teddy Roosevelt Library, the ribbon cutting, the train ride, the new Air Force One, all the things. We're going to show you that. Then we're going to get into the action and the latest out of Iran. Also, the latest out of Chicago. An absolutely horrific event rocked the city this morning. We're going to bring you all the details on that. And it looks like the net is tightening around Ilhan Omar. More controversies surrounding the Somali representative. And we're also going to be discussing the midterms and their importance and what President Trump has planned, which is actually unprecedented, never been done before. And then that bizarre event in New York City today. We'll bring you the latest on the events that took place atop the spire at the Empire State Building. So we're going to bring all that news to you. But first, we're going to start with the new Air Force One and the events at the Teddy Roosevelt Library. "35, 36 years old, that's the number Donald Trump put on the old Air Force One before he stepped onto a brand new presidential jet and told the country the obvious truth. It didn't look appropriate for our country. There it is, one sentence, one image, one indictment of the managed decline crowd that spent years lowering standards and calling it normal. Trump boarded the maiden presidential flight of what Boeing called the best 747 they've ever built, headed to the Theodore Roosevelt Presidential Library in North Dakota. New plane, first flight, Bismarck landing, helicopter into Medora, and one brutal contrast Democrats cannot scrub from memory. Now, this matters because symbols are not fluff. Symbols are power. When the President of the United States rolls out on a tired 35-year-old aircraft, foreign leaders see drift, bureaucrats see permission to coast, and the American people get trained to accept less. Joe Biden's handlers sold that sickness for years. Legacy media swallowed it whole. They normalized the shabbiness, the stumbling, the visible weakness, and the idea that America should stop expecting excellence from its own government. Donald Trump just blew that scam apart in broad daylight. He looked at the old aircraft and said, flatly, it didn't look appropriate for our country. Then he fixed it, and he did it fast. Boeing's chief called it the best 747 they'd ever built, and Trump said the presidential security and upgrades got finished in 5 months. 5 months. And that's what leadership looks like when a president loves American stature instead of apologizing for it. And he chose Theodore Roosevelt's library for the first destination because strength recognizes strength. Trump just showed what happens when you stop accepting 35-year-old decline. And that's exactly why C60 Evo hit me so hard. See, I've tried hundreds of supplements and nothing touched this stuff. C60 Evo is a Nobel Prize-winning molecule, not just another antioxidant. From the Houston lab making this since 1991 to the Paris study showing the longest life extension in history, this stuff works at the cellular level, where aging actually happens. My brain fog gone, my joint pain virtually eliminated. My wife's skin, she looks 10 years younger. And my energy feels 20 years younger. Lab animals live 90% longer, so to all the haters out there, I'll be around for quite a while. It's also 172 times more powerful than vitamin C and worth more than gold per ounce. Get more energy, clear thinking, better skin, and feel young again at c60evo.com/NNN. Use code NNN at checkout. America should look first class again. And here's the detail that twists the knife even deeper. Trump did not make this magnificent new aircraft to some donor retreat or glitzy vanity shop. He took its first presidential flight to the Theodore Roosevelt Presidential Library, then rode to Medora with the Rough Riders escorting the motorcade after landing in Bismarck and transferring by helicopter. That's not random. It's a president wrapping modern American muscle around the memory of an unapologetic American giant. In a second, I'm going to show you what people are saying because the contrast, well, everybody sees it's rather savage. President Trump debuts a massive upgrade to the presidential fleet as he prepares to board a brand new Air Force One for its first flight to the Teddy Roosevelt Presidential Library opening. Here is the president now.
So this will be the first flight of what I think is maybe the greatest commercial plane ever built. I said to Boeing, what's the best one? They said, this is the best plane ever built. And you're going to have the privilege of flying it, and I have a privilege also of flying it. But this is the first flight. We're going to the Teddy Roosevelt Presidential Library opening, and that'll be very good. That'll be a lot of fun. But I think, to be honest with you, I'm excited about the first flight. It's something nobody's ever seen anything like it. Even you people with all your experience and all of your talent, you will never see anything like this. So they just completed it. They made it appropriate for a president. That means the security and all of the different bells and whistles they put on. Very complex stuff, but it's really quite something. And this is a plane that the United States of America should have. Our Air Force One was 35, 36 years old, and it would be parked next to the new ones like this, and it really didn't look appropriate for our country. So we're very proud of this. The country is very proud of it.
So Trump just laid out why the old presidential jet had become an embarrassment. Now he gets even more specific on where this upgraded 747 came from and what Boeing says about the aircraft itself.
Well, of course, very little relative to what it would cost if we did it a different way. So this was a gift from a country that's treated us very well, and they're an ally of us over in the Middle East, Qatar. And I went to Boeing, I said, who has the best one? They said, Qatar. There's never been a plane like it. Frankly, we couldn't build a plane like this because we wouldn't be willing to spend the kind of money necessary. They spent top dollar. So the head of Boeing said, this is considered the best 747 they've ever built. And I went to Qatar, I said, I'd like to use it. for a period of time because the other ones, as you know, are under construction. They'll be here in 2 years. And because, you know, the plane is 35 years old. So I said I'd like to use it. And the Emir, Tamim, who's a great gentleman, he said, no, I'd like to make a contribution to the country. So it was very nice. And we were able to do it in about 5 months, you know, bring it up to the presidential standard, meaning security-wise. And you're gonna get a kick out of it. There's just nothing like it.
Nothing like it. So Trump says this is the best 747 Boeing has ever built. And it was brought up to presidential standards fast. Now we move from the tarmac to the moment viewers have been waiting for. Trump boarding the new Air Force One for the very first time. So you saw the maiden boarding with the first flight officially underway. It hits harder when you remember the Biden era footage of the corporate media that they tried to downplay. Every time. Every time. What a mess that presidency was. After that rough Biden clip, Trump reaches the top of the stairs, the new Air Force One, and gives the country a wave. Margot Martin with the video. There it is. Quite the contrast. Next, we get a look inside the aircraft where the presidential branding and welcome setup are already on display. Monica Crowley presenting herself on the maiden voyage inside the new Air Force One. Look at the Air Force One branded pillows and couch. So the inside matches the mission, presidential, polished, and unmistakably American. Now we pull back outside for a wide look at the aircraft on its first official run. Take a look. Here we have the shot. Amazing Air Force One, the new one. Beautiful plane. So you just saw the full profile, new jet sitting on the tarmac. Next comes the wheels up moment as it lifts off for North Dakota. Air Force One taking to the skies, airborne on the ground in North Dakota. The welcome is pure Americana with the Rough Riders escorting the motorcade. Remarkable to witness. So the escort gives the arrival a Theodore Roosevelt touch you won't get from the usual scripted White House optics. Next, the trip keeps rolling with Trump arriving aboard the Freedom 250 train.
presidential, you can see the presidential seal on that car.
So from the patriotic train to a crowd line route, the Energy Building, now you see Trump step off the Freedom 250 train to greet supporters. It's always fun to watch Secret Service in action too, seeing them spring into gear as he walks up to the crowd line. So after the welcome from supporters, the focus shifts from the crowd to the destination. Next, Trump tours the Theodore Roosevelt Presidential Library with Doug Burgum.
So it's been really very inspiring. They've done a fantastic job with the museum.
Are you getting ideas for your own library, sir?
I'm getting some ideas. Getting some good ideas. Thank you.
So the library tour leaves Trump calling the experience inspiring. Next, he gets something a few presidents ever would, a conversation with an AI version of Theodore Roosevelt himself.
Every day, a president faces storms most people never see. Keep your nerve and remember the nation comes first. You get through. I know you know that feeling yourself.
Well, I appreciate those words. Those words are fantastic. And I just want to say it's an honor to be with you today. We are making a little bit of a tour, some of the fantastic things you've done.
How cool. So Trump interacting with an AI, Theodore Roosevelt. Now exchange gets more pointed when Trump asks him directly about the Panama Canal and whether it was his greatest achievement.
Do you consider the Panama Canal your greatest achievement?
Well. Right then, yes.
Good answer.
The canal stands as one of my proudest battles, no question. But greatness is a strange thing. It isn't always the biggest or boldest job that matters most. The Panama Canal showed what America could achieve if we held steady and acted fast when the world dragged its feet. That said, I measure my greatest work by the lives improved. Parks set aside, food and drugs made safe, the square deal given to all, not just to a few. Still, when I stood in the mud watching those steam shovels, knowing ships would pass through, changing the world's map forever, I felt I'd left a mark that would last.
Okay, you did. Thank you.
Wow. That is probably the coolest thing I've ever seen. Oh my goodness. A modern president, current president, having a conversation with a former president with AI. Absolutely amazing. So the peak of the story is not just the gleaming fuselage. It's Donald Trump saying without apology, this is a plane that the United States of America should have. While the ghost of the Biden era hangs over that old footage of Joe Biden falling 3 times on the stairs. The contrast writes the verdict by itself. Biden's caretaker has turned weakness into a brand. The Washington establishment protected it. Corporate media polished it. And Trump torched it. He replaced embarrassment with prestige, decay with excellence, and excuses with the machine Boeing called the best 747 they'd ever built. Then he pointed it towards Theodore Roosevelt. Of course he did. Strong presidents understand symbols. Frail regimes fear them. So enjoy this win, because it is a win. Be proud that the presidency looks powerful again. And get ready, because the meltdown class is already winding up. The same media creatures who ignored years of incompetence, years of aging equipment, years of national smallness will suddenly clutch pearls now that Donald Trump put the office back where it belongs on a first-class aircraft that looks worthy of the United States of America. Let them whine. Let the bitter people sneer. Patriots can see the difference with their own eyes, and Trump stepped onto a new Air Force One, flew into Bismarck, pushed onto Medora, and tied the whole moment to Theodore Roosevelt's legacy of force, speed, and American confidence. That's not vanity. That's presidential instinct. So drop your take in the comments if you're sick of the decline merchants, and send this segment to one person who still pretends symbols don't matter tonight. Remember, they matter at 30,000 feet. And you know what else matters? You getting notifications from me directly. Thousands and thousands of patriots have already texted the words raw feed to that number you see on your screen, 844-840-4963. I do not want you to miss out. I've read your comments. I understand your frustration. You don't get notifications about when our news hits, and you can't find us when you search for us. That's why I set up this number, so that you can get the news directly from me when it matters most. And since we're celebrating wins, celebrate with the Next News Network by going to the Next News merch shelf below this video or at shop.nextnewsnetwork.com. How is that? Nice little feel-good story. President Trump, Air Force One, the new one, heading on to Teddy Roosevelt. How about that Rough Riders arrival? The train. I mean, everything just beautiful. And the AI Teddy Roosevelt. Man, I want to see more of that. I couldn't find much more. I was hoping that maybe there would have been a longer exchange. You know, maybe President Trump asking for advice or something. How cool would that be? And speaking of advice, we're going to be moving on to Tehran, where they better take the advice of the United States and President Trump. So let's move on with that. Oil hit $68. Read that again. Oil dropped below the level from before President Trump launched the strike that smashed Iran's nuclear track. The same Democrat media machine that shrieked about apocalypse now looks like a busted propaganda shop. Trump said it himself, the denuclearization of Iran is moving along well. And he paired that with the number that wrecks the panic script, 68. Markets up, oil down, Iran hammered. And the regime that spent 47 years chanting death to America now sits at the table from a position of humiliation. The people who yelled that Trump blinked just got caught lying in real time. And wait until you hear one detail about the Strait of Hormuz. See, this matters because it hits two places Americans feel it first: national survival and family budget. President Trump didn't just crack Iran's momentum, he protected the homeland and blew up one of the left's favorite frauds at the very same time. The former Biden crowd, they train this country to think strength abroad always means economic pain at home. Well, Trump just gutted that lie. He hit Iran for 3 nights, wrecked key military capability, kept the Strait of Hormuz flowing, and oil fell to $68. Gas comes down, markets set records. See, that's peace through strength and peace through power with receipts. And name the villains. Legacy media hacks, they pushed the line that Trump blinked. Democrats pushed the same garbage because they wanted weakness to look sophisticated again. J.D. Vance torched them. America is in a great position, however, the negotiation ultimately shakes out. See, that means if Tehran folds, the nuclear dream dies. If Tehran plays games, Trump already destroyed leverage that they can't rebuild overnight. Anna Kelly drove the moral point home. This is a regime that for 47 years chanted death to America. Trump didn't flatter that regime. What did he do? He cornered it. And when Trump drops Iran's leverage and oil still lands at 68, I pay attention to things that actually work. And that's why red light therapy caught me. Inside that Joe Rogan and Mel Gibson clip, after talk of serious health struggles and dramatic turnarounds from light-based therapies with cellular level impact, Gibson says this stuff works. Jonathan Otto first put me onto it after my wife battled constant discomfort and anxiety. Then came real restful sleep, improved recovery, and better energy. With NASA-backed research and FDA-cleared devices, these systems use red and near-infrared wavelengths for deeper penetration, support circulation, reduce inflammation, and deliver cellular-level support. They've even got PEMF mats, full-body coverage, infrared heat, and at-home use instead of paid sessions with support for recovery and sleep. Go to myredlight.com, use NNN25 for individual items or NNN30 for bundles because strength wins. And this weekend, keep your eyes open for an exclusive interview with Jonathan and my special guest, Angie Franchi. Yeah, she'll be joining the broadcast this weekend. Now, here is the detail the media don't want on the Chiron. J.D. Vance said the Iranians have not hit ships in the last couple of weeks because President Trump made it crystal clear if they hit ships, America hits back. Then came the perfect snapshot of the region's reality. A vessel ignored the IRGC route in the Strait of Hormuz, ran aground, and Iranian state TV started talking ransom. That one image tells the whole story. Iran still acts like a pirate regime. Trump still holds the bigger stick. I'm going to bring up the receipts that are going to light up that exact point. Trump weighs restarting war with Iran, but sticking with peace talks for now.
The U.S. envoy, Mr. Steve Witkoff and Mr. Jared Kushner are here in Doha to meet with the mediators, meaning with the Qatari officials, and the talks will be around all regional issues which are of concern, including, of course, the negotiations with Iran, but also including Lebanon and other files in the region. So they are not here for direct negotiations with the Iranians or related meetings. We're not expecting any high-level Iranian officials at the moment, but as I said,
the report shows that Team Trump's keeping the channel open while making it clear America controls the pressure points. Now the president puts numbers at it himself, saying Iran got hit hard and oil has already dropped to 68.
As far as things are going, the denuclearization of Iran is moving along well. They've had very good meetings, and we'll see. We hit them very hard for 3 nights, as you know, but we're getting along very well. So I call it the denuclearization, and it's all taking place. It's all going well. The stock market is setting records virtually every day. The oil price is way down. We're down at 68. I see it hit 68 today. That's lower than when I started the, I guess you could call it an attack on Iran so that they never have a nuclear weapon. So the oil price is now lower. The retail prices, the gasoline is coming down rapidly.
So Trump says the strike worked and the market isn't buying the Democrat doom script. Next, J.D. Vance explains why the White House believes it holds all the cards whether Tehran makes a deal or not.
The Iranians have not hit ships in the last couple of weeks, and the oil is flowing in the Strait of Hormuz, in part because the president made very clear that if the Iranians hit ships, we were going to hit back. So, it's going to take sometimes the carrot and the stick here. But, Laura, I actually think that the United States is in a great position, however the negotiation ultimately shakes out. If the negotiation is successful, which obviously we want it to be successful, you have an Iran that is permanently transformed, that's not funding regional terrorism and instability, that has permanently given up on any nuclear weapons ambition, and that as a result is welcomed back into the world economy. That's a great outcome for the American people. It's a great outcome for the whole region. But Laura, if on the other hand the Iranians don't behave, if they don't make the concessions in the negotiations that we need to see, their nuclear program is still destroyed, their conventional military is still destroyed, and the United States is still in a much stronger position relative to the Iranians. So my attitude on this, Laura, is we have all the cards in the negotiation. We obviously want it to be successful, but even if it's not successful, we've accomplished the core mission, which is to ensure that the Iranians never have a nuclear weapon. In other words, it's a win-win outcome for the American people. And I think because of that, what you see in the room, Laura, is I think evidence of a real push and pull in their system. There are people within the Iranian system who recognize the way that they've done business for 47 years is a mistake, and they want to turn over a new leaf. You also see some resistance, some of the old hardliners, some of the old radicals who don't want to change their behavior. Part of what we're trying to do in this negotiation, Laura, is to see how serious they actually are. And to be serious, they've got to not just say the right things, they've got to make real concessions. So whether it's the president, me, anybody else in the negotiation, we care a lot less about what the Iranians say. We care a lot more about what they do. We see some positive signs. Obviously, we see some negative signs. What the president has told us is work the problem, see where the negotiation is going to lead. And if it doesn't lead to a successful resolution on the diplomatic side, we still have a lot of optionality, and we've still accomplished a whole lot for the American people.
So Vance lays it out plain. Deal or no deal, Iran is weaker, America stronger. Meanwhile, in the Strait of Hormuz, a ship that ignored the IRGC winds up stranded and staring at an Iranian shakedown. We posted this earlier today. Ship ignores IRGC Navy in Strait of Hormuz, ends up running aground and stranded with all its containers. Iranian tugboat on the scene offering assistance, but state TV says the owner must pay a large ransom for it. for violating the designated route.
Let's take a look at this. A vessel that tried to bypass the rules of the Strait of Hormuz, but met a rather unfortunate end.
This is the result of ignoring the commands of the IRGC Navy, and what we're seeing here is it running aground a ship that refused to follow the authorized route, and as a direct consequence, now it is completely stranded along with all of its containers. And this Iranian tugboat has arrived on the scene to offer assistance.
So the grounding is a snapshot of how the regime operates: threats, extortion, and control of a critical shipping lane. Next, Vance pushes back on the media and the rhino chatter that Trump somehow blinked, saying there's still a lot more of a game to play here.
Could this be a very important historical moment? The answer is obviously yes. But again, how exactly this plays out is very much contingent on the way that the Iranians respond to the leverage the president has put on them. And if they respond well, I think we're going to look back at this and say we turned over a new leaf. Now, a lot of people are skeptical, including me, that will ultimately happen. And then if the Iranians perform or behave poorly, then I think that we still have a lot of leverage points to ensure that this ends up in a place that is good for America's objectives. So I think fundamentally there's a desire here for everyone to say this is over, or the Democrats and even frankly some Republicans are saying, well, this shows that Trump blinked. And then other people are saying, it's all over. And the Iranians are saying this. And I would be highly skeptical of what everybody says right now. I think Marcos said this the other day. He said, this is the end of the beginning. Okay. There is a lot more game to play. Yeah. And there are a lot more cards that we're going to see, to mix metaphors here. And the good thing about it is that we're served by an administration, we're served by a president of the United States who is constantly trying to figure out how to gain an edge for the American people. I ultimately strongly believe we will look back on this moment and say we got to a good place. It's going to take a lot of work, not just in the negotiation arena, but in the other arenas too.
So Vance says it's not over. Trump's still pressing for every possible advantage. Next, Anna Kelly drives the point home. After 47 years of death to America, the U.S. is safer and Iran's war machine is wrecked.
Well, the president has been clear. I mean, either way, the vice president even said so on Fox last night. I mean, either way, that we have created a tremendously more safe and protective situation for our homeland here in the United States. Again, this is a country that for 47 years has chanted death to America, has threatened our troops overseas. As President Trump says, they've long leveraged their proxies to commit atrocities against our troops. So either way, we have paved the way for denuclearization of Iran. Their ballistic missiles, again, are destroyed. Their military capabilities are totally demolished. And now those negotiations continue towards a final deal. So either way, the United States is safer and wins. But the president's been clear, if they shoot at us, we'll shoot back. But he feels like the United States and Iran have a good opportunity to make a deal that would eliminate their nuclear capabilities.
We'd all.
So the peak of the story sits inside one brutal contrast. President Donald Trump said denuclearization is moving well, while oil hit 68, lower than when he started the attack to stop Iran from ever getting a nuclear weapon. At the same time, Iranian state TV bragged that a stranded ship's owner would have to pay a large ransom after ignoring an IRGC route. There it is. Trump drove down oil and drove up American leverage, and Tehran still thinks like a dockside extortion racket. And the Democrat media machine still tried to sell you a fairy tale that Trump blinked. No. Trump broke the regime's momentum, shattered its bluff in the strait, and forced every path, deal, or destruction through American power. So let's end where the facts end, not where CNN's spin begins. Iran stopped hitting ships, the strait is functioning, oil is down, markets are up, and the White House says denuclearization is moving along well. The vice president says America wins either way. Anna Kelly says it flat. After 47 years of death to America, the United States is safer and wins. That's not theory. That's the scoreboard. And every Democrat and every legacy media mouthpiece who pushed the Trump blink smear deserves to wear that failure publicly. Name them. Mock them. They carried water for weakness while Trump gained an edge for the American people. If Tehran wants a failure, it can permanently give up the nuclear fantasy. If Tehran wants to test America again, President Trump already gave the answer. We shoot back harder. Drop your take in the comments and send this to the people still parroting the blinked lie, and watch what happens when reality steamrolls propaganda. And here's the reality. I've read your comments. I understand your frustration. And that's why I set up this telephone number just for you. 844-840-4963. There are thousands and thousands of patriots who are already benefiting because they text the words raw feed to that telephone number. We're bypassing the algorithm together. We're sending you the notifications directly because I understand you are not getting them. So we're setting this up just for you, so make sure you get on board before it's too late. And get on board with the celebration. America 250's here. Find some gear in the merch shop below this video or at shop.nextnewsnetwork.com. Okay, moving right along. We are going to be discussing that horror that happened in Chicago this morning. 100 shell casings. It was like a massive gun battle happening in River North in Chicago. In Pritzker's Chicago, Brandon Johnson's Chicago. My state. It's an absolute embarrassment. And Pritzker making the rounds on CNN as well. The guy thinks he's going to be your next president. Well, we got to do everything we can to stop him. And the only way to stop him is to ensure that Darren Bailey beats him at the ballot box for governor. All right. J.B. Pritzker looked straight into a camera and swore that Joe Biden was on the ball and knows more than most of us have forgotten. Now that same smug billionaire machine boss pops up to call President Trump demented. No, absolutely not. Pritzker doesn't get to run that scam twice. Not after he went all in for Joe Biden, not while Chicago cops counted shell casings at State and Grand and hit marker number 101, then 102 on live television. That number tells you everything about Democrat rule in Illinois. The lie, the decay, the nerve, and Trump's answer turns this whole fraud operation inside out. And the fight matters because J.B. Pritzker didn't just toss a cheap insult at Donald Trump. J.B. Pritzker joined a coordinated Democrat media cover-up when it mattered most. He vouched for Joe Biden's mental fitness on camera. He said Biden was on the ball. He said Biden knows more than most of us have forgotten. Darren Bailey, who's his opponent, dragged up the second receipt too. Pritzker declared, "I'm all in for Joe Biden," even after Americans watch Biden unravel. So when Pritzker now snaps that Trump has dementia, he isn't sounding an alarm. He's projecting. He's gaslighting. He's betting the Illinois families forgot who lied to their faces, and while the corrupt media machine lets him strut, Chicago bleeds. At State and Grand and River North, reporters counted evidence markers 101, 102 shell casings after a deadly shooting left one man dead and another shot. See, that's the stake. If voters let Democrats lie about mental fitness, public safety, and plain reality without consequence, they'll keep ruling by propaganda while normal Americans pay in blood. When J.B. Pritzker can look at marker 101 and 102 in River North and still sell fairy tales, I double down on things that actually work. After trying hundreds of supplements, only C60 Evo hit like this. Brain fog gone, joint pain virtually eliminated, more energy, clearer thinking. My wife's skin, she looks 10 years younger, and my energy feels 20 years younger. C60 Evo, it's a Nobel Prize-winning molecule, not just another antioxidant. It works at the cellular level, where aging actually happens. In the Paris study, lab animals live 90% longer, the longest life extension in history. Now, this formula is 172 times more powerful than vitamin C. It's worth more than gold per ounce and made in a Houston lab since 1991. Get exclusive savings at c60evo.com/NNN. Use code NNN at checkout. Results crush propaganda. Now here's the detail that makes Pritzker's performance even more insulting. While bullets tore through River North windows and detectives scraped up over 100 shell casings, Pritzker still found time to lecture the country about protecting trans kids and sneer at Trump. That inversion tells you exactly how this machine thinks. Families get chaos, girls get erased, criminals get excuses. And then the media hand Pritzker a microphone and act like he's the adult in the room. Oh, I'm going to show you everything side by side. I'm going to let you guys watch the lie collide with the body count. Here's J.B. Pritzker talking with Caitlin Collins on CNN in his safe space after his break at the Golden Corral. I guess they had all-you-could-eat fried chicken, and he just arrived on time for the interview. He thinks President Trump has dementia.
The president has dementia?
I do. I think if you look at any of the videos from 2015 or 2016 and look at how he responded to questions and how he was at press conferences, and then you fast forward and look at him now, I really think that there's something genuinely wrong with him. I'm not a doctor. I haven't diagnosed anything. I'm just suggesting to you that just look at the way he puts words and sentences together and thoughts, and they're almost divergent in the same sentences.
Yeah. Unbelievable. So he goes on CNN questioning Trump's mental fitness. Now watch the tape Democrats don't want replayed. His opponent in the gubernatorial race, Darren Bailey, brings up Pritzker backing Joe Biden even after that train wreck debate. Darren Bailey posting that J.B. Pritzker says Trump has dementia. There's the same guy who was all in on Joe Biden after the debate. Even Jill Biden thought Joe was having a stroke.
Look, the man is continually suffering from dementia. I don't think he really understands what he's saying.
I'm not engaging in any hypotheticals. You can see that I'm all in for Joe Biden. Joe Biden's going to be the nominee of the Democratic Party. I'm going to go out there and wholeheartedly campaign for him. I've endorsed him and Kamala Harris. He's going to be at the convention in August accepting the nomination, and I'll be cheering for him in the audience.
History didn't really play out like that, did it, JB? No. You guys dumped Joe Biden. He was not the nominee. So Bailey's point, though, is simple. Pritzker had no problem covering for Biden. Next, Congresswoman Mary Miller digs up the clip where Pritzker claimed Biden was on the ball and knew more than everyone else.
I'll point out that I thought it was extremely unfair for he was a Trump appointee originally to the Department of Justice, to offer his own opinions about the mental acuity or age of the President of the United States. I've been with the President of the United States many times. He is on the ball. The man knows more than most of us have forgotten. He knows so much more because he's been in government for a number of years.
A number of years. His entire adult life. So that old defense of Biden is exactly why Pritzker's new attack falls apart. RNC Research keeps the pressure on, showing him doubling down on his Trump smear after standing by Biden's decline. Known for being in RNC Research, Democrat J.B. Pritzker, known for being in top physical shape and eating a balanced diet, claims President Trump has dementia. Pritzker repeatedly stood by Joe Biden amidst his cognitive decline. No one is buying this. Here he is again on CNN.
You said that there's something wrong with him. What do you mean by that?
I mean, it's clear that he's not sure what he's saying from moment to moment, and then he'll promise something and then not deliver it. He'll say something, then he'll say something completely contrary to that. And I don't know anybody that acts like that doesn't have some kind of a problem and some kind of issue thinking things through. That is what I think, and I've been saying that for some time. I think he's got some dementia.
Unbelievable. So, after years of defending Biden, Pritzker suddenly diagnosing Trump on CNN. Next clip shows this wasn't his only left-wing pitch. He also sides against states trying to keep girls' sports sides against states trying to keep girls' sports for sports. The blinders on, right? If Pritzker disagrees with SCOTUS ruling to allow states to decide if men can play in girls' sports.
On the issue itself, do you think the court was right?
I think that we ought to be protecting trans kids.
So you think
That's
they were
what
wrong?
I think. I can tell you this, that those trans kids, you know, I'm sure you've seen the statistics that depression and other mental health challenges are following these kids because of the way they're being treated in some communities. We ought to be sympathizing with the parents. We ought to be trying to help them help their children and not putting barriers in the way of children just being kids.
No, it couldn't possibly be all the drugs you're pumping them to block their hormones. So the joke lands because the Democrat playbook never changes. Meanwhile, in Pritzker's own state, Chicago, drowning in the kind of violent crime his party keeps excusing. Illini Jen. Over 100 shell casings littered State and Grand in Chicago's River North this morning. One man killed, another shot twice in the foot. Bullet holes riddled the windows. Cops still searching for shooters. River North has seen multiple shootings in Chicago this year, and now another. Brandon Johnson keeps calling these shootings senseless. The rest of us see the same failed approach, producing the same deadly results. How many more shell casings before Chicago's mayor admits his strategy is broken? Here is local news.
Police are investigating a deadly shooting. It happened near Grand and State. And that's where we find NBC5's Lisa Chavarria. She joins us now live from the scene. We've been talking with you all morning long, Lisa, and you can just see behind you all of the shell casings that are there on the ground. What have you learned?
Right, those yellow markers usually indicate where evidence is. And in this case, in a shooting like this, that means shell casings. Well, as we were looking, initially we told you we had seen 68 was the highest number. I want to show you what we're now seeing as a couple of vehicles were moved out of the way. And you can see here on the ground 101 and 102. That is how many shell casings are all scattered around this corner here on State and Grand. We are told by Chicago police this shooting killed a 30-year-old man and wounded a 65-year-old man. Now, if we look over to our left here, you can see at this point detectives are in the process of collecting some of that evidence. Off in the distance was a baseball cap, and some of the windows up against the building, basically on the right side of your screen, were blown out by the gunfire. Here's what we know. Chicago police say the shooting happened just before 3:30 this morning here in River North. Police tell us two men were standing out here when they heard gunshots and felt pain. The 30-year-old was shot multiple times. He was rushed to Northwestern Memorial Hospital, where he died a short time later. The 65-year-old was shot twice in the foot. We are told he was taken to the hospital in fair condition. So this is the scene. It is unusual to see this many shell casings all in one location. And at this point, Everett and Michelle, Chicago police say they are still searching for those responsible for this deadly shooting.
Grand and State, Chicago. I want to take a look at exactly where that is. Let's see. Grand and State. Wow. Unbelievable. So more than 100 shell casings in River North. The excuses keep coming. President Trump lays out exactly what he'd do if Pritzker stopped posturing and asked for help.
Well, I like Darren Bailey. J.B. Pritzker is a slob of a governor. You know, he could call me and I'd send the National Guard, and Chicago would have no crime. Look at Washington, D.C. Did you see the crime stats? It's down to like nothing. People go to restaurants now, new restaurants. Restaurants are all being closed in Washington. Now they're building new restaurants. It's a hot city. We have a beautiful city. We have very little crime, almost no crime. And we could have the same thing in Chicago. All he'd have to do is say, President, I don't want to have any crime in Chicago. Can you help me? Within 3 months, Chicago would be a different place.
What about the mayor, Brandon?
What can I say? He's so bad. He's so bad.
So Trump says Chicago could be turned around fast if Pritzker would get out of the way. Next, he goes harder, blasting both Pritzker and the city's failed leadership over the bloodshed.
We're heading to Chicago because we want to save Chicago. Do you know they had over 4,000 people killed in Chicago over a short 4,000 people? And I have to watch this slob of a governor stand up and say that, well, everything's okay. We've got it under control. They had 4,000 people murdered over a very short period of time. There's not a city in the world, I don't believe, that can claim, you hear so much about different, I won't, embarrass anybody, like by saying Mexico City or by saying anywhere in Afghanistan. There's no place like that. And then I have to listen to the mayor who's got a 5% approval rate, maybe less. He's an incompetent man. And the governor's an incompetent guy. He's a guy that was thrown out of his family business like a dog. And I know his family very well. And now he's a governor. And when I watch him trying to say that it's okay, we have crime under control, I lost 4,000 people over a very short period of time. I believe it's like 6,000, 7,000 people were shot but didn't die. But 4,000 people died. And then he gets up and talks about how it's not a problem. Or Portland, Oregon. I mean, every time I look at that place, the place is burning down. There's fires all over the place. When a store owner, there are very few of them left, but when a store owner rebuilds a store, they build it out of plywood, and they don't put up storefronts anymore. They just put wood up because they know it's going to be ripped down. And then I hear how wonderful it is. It's not wonderful. It's a disaster. That's almost an insurrection in that place. So we put our people in there, and they do the job, and they've really done the job. And the beautiful thing is we've done it. 12 days we had this place safe, and now it's, I would say within a month, it was beautiful.
So the moral verdict lands in Pritzker's own words. I'm all in for Joe Biden. He's on the ball. Knows more than most of us have forgotten. See, those lines don't slip out by accident. J.B. Pritzker delivered them on purpose to protect a collapsing Democrat presidency. Now he swings around and calls Donald Trump demented, while his flagship city coughs up shell casing markers 101 and 102 on one downtown corner. See, that's not credibility. That's contempt for the public. And President Trump smashed the whole mask off the whole racket with one brutal offer. Call me, send the National Guard. Chicago changes in 90 days. Trump names the failure. Pritzker manages it. Brandon Johnson excuses it, and the media launders it. Illinois families endure it. So enough, really enough. Enough with the projection. Enough with the lying clips resurfacing only after the damage is done. Enough with J.B. Pritzker puffing himself up as some moral authority while Chicago reels and while he sides with the cultural radicals over girls, parents, and basic order. If Pritzker wants to debate about fitness, start with fitness to govern Illinois. Start with state and grand. Start with shell casing marker 101. And then start with the Biden cover-up he helped run. And then answer the simplest question in the whole story. If President Trump offered help, why won't J.B. Pritzker take it? Because fixing Chicago would expose the whole Democrat racket. They need the excuses. Trump brings results, and the results wreck their propaganda. So drop your take in the comments if you remember Pritzker's Biden lines, and share this with one person who still trusts the media. And keep your eyes on Illinois. That state's warning label, it matters. What also matters is you getting the news when you demand it. When you click that notification bell and notifications never arrive, what do? Well, I've read your comments, I've read your complaints, I know your frustration, and that's why I set up this number. 844-840-4963. Thousands and thousands of patriots are already on the inside track getting the news directly from me. All they did was they text the words raw feed to that number. I want you to do the same thing right now. Don't delay and get the news that matters. And celebrate America 250 with the Next News Network by going to the merch shelf below this video or shop.nextnewsnetwork.com. Okay, moving from one gangster to another, we got to talk about the latest in Ilhan Omar and the controversy that just continues to swirl around her. We got some good news there, and then we'll talk about the midterm events that are about to happen Unprecedented, actually. And then we'll get into that bizarre event in New York today. The Empire State Building. The email subject line was, "Help with USDA food programs." Let that sink in. Prosecutors tied that exact phrase to communications with Ilhan Omar's office, while Feeding Our Future looters ripped off more than $250 million meant for hungry kids in Minnesota. Then another key player, Abdul Krum Adil, got grabbed in Somalia after years on the run and now waits for extradition. And right in the middle of it all, Minnesota Democrats blocked a subpoena for the records that Omar still refuses to release. So if Ilhan Omar has nothing to hide, why did her party slam the door just as the receipts started to pile up? The story matters for one reason above all. Your country cannot survive a ruling class that steals from children and then hides the paper trail behind identity politics and sealed communications. Feeding Our Future was not some bookkeeping error. It was a $250 million feeding program heist. Money meant for hungry children got gutted while insiders lived large. The same Minnesota Democrat machine that backed Tim Walz and protects Ilhan Omar circled the wagons when subpoenas got close. So look at the detail they can't outrun. Amy Bach's trial exposed an email chain with Omar's office carrying the subject line, "Help with USDA food programs." The exact programs the fraudsters looted. Weeks later came another line, Ilhan's office. Then text messages between Bach and Omar's staff. And what did Minnesota Democrats do when the public demanded sunlight? They blocked the subpoena. Omar called the fraud reprehensible, but she still won't dump the full communications. That's not transparency. That's a protection racket. And every normal American watching this knows exactly how the system would move if Republicans in office sat in the middle of a fraud trail like that. When Minnesota Democrats, they block subpoenas and they bury records, you should assume the same game hits your wallet too. That's how confusion protects insiders and traps families. If you or your family use Medicare, Chapter cuts through the Medicare confusion industrial complex for seniors. They are simple by design. One call, one advisor who looks at your doctors, looks at your prescriptions, your whole situation, and will tell you the truth with no propaganda, just facts. They work for you, not big insurance. If you're already on the right plan, they'll say it. If not, they can help you switch. Last year, people who found new plans with Chapter saved an average of $1,100. Now, it's free. It takes under 20 minutes. Call 910-728-4109. That's the number you see on your screen there. Write it down. Give them a call. And stop letting bureaucrats and middlemen box you in like Omar's protectors do. Now, here's the part that should make every viewer furious. Ilhan Omar didn't just duck questions about fraud figures in her orbit. She also mocked Trump voters as idiots and dumb while her office sat connected to messages about the exact USDA food programs that got raided. That arrogance matters because it tells you how this machine thinks. They believe you're too stupid to notice the subject lines, too intimidated to demand the records, and too distracted to connect Omar, Walz World Democrats, and the block subpoena. So I'm going to pull up the reactions now. Ilhan Omar facing fresh heat over possible ties to the massive $250 million Feeding Our Future fraud scheme in Minnesota. Prosecutors say the convicted ringleaders and key players were in direct contact with Omar's office. Another major figure just arrested and is awaiting extradition. We've been tracking that here. Minnesota Democrats blocked a subpoena for the records. Time for full transparency and answers.
Minnesota Congresswoman Ilhan Omar to answer questions about her alleged contacts with convicted fraudsters. It comes after another arrest tied to the state's sprawling Feeding Our Future fraud scandal. Correspondent Garrett Tenney takes a look tonight from our Midwest Bureau.
Minnesota Democratic Congresswoman Ilhan Omar is facing new questions tonight over her possible ties to alleged fraudsters involved in the massive Feeding Our Future scandal. The Justice Department says after years on the run, Abdulkarim Idlay is now in custody in Somalia, awaiting extradition. Prosecutors say the 42-year-old was a central figure in the $250 million fraud scheme, working with now convicted ringleader Amy Bach, whose trial exposed communications between the pair and Congresswoman Omar's staff. The details of those messages are sealed under court order, but we know in February 2021, Bach sent Idlay an email with the subject line, Ilhan's office. And weeks earlier, she had an email chain with Omar's office with the subject line, help with USDA food programs. Bach also had a string of text messages with Omar's office.
Did you ask Minnesota Democrats to block the subpoena?
Last month, Minnesota House Democrats blocked a Republican effort to subpoena records related to Omar's contacts with individuals that have been charged or convicted in the scheme.
This is not like a one-off. She has relationships with many of those who have been convicted or charged in this scheme. So I think it's absolutely relevant that we get to the truth of what those communications with her office were.
Omar denies any wrongdoing, telling Fox Digital, any claim that I had knowledge of this scheme is flat out false. As I stated from the beginning, stealing millions of dollars under the guise of feeding hungry children to bankroll lavish lifestyles and extravagant expenses is reprehensible. While Congresswoman Omar has never been charged with or accused of a crime connected to the Feeding Our Future scheme, it's worth noting she also has chosen not to make public the details of the communications her office had with those who were involved. Brett?
And
Garrett,
it's
thank
time
you.
to subpoena those records. The sealed contacts and the block subpoenas are exactly why the story isn't going away. Next, another report zeroes in on the Somalia arrest, the email subject that keeps raising red flags.
In Somalia just last week. Garrett Tenney's watching that. Midwest Bureau with more. What details do you have now, Garrett? Hello there.
Hey, Bill, good morning to you. This guy who was arrested was allegedly one of the orchestrators of the massive Feeding Our Futures fraud scheme. And when he was charged 4 years ago, Abdulkarim Idlay fled the country. His name came up a lot during the trial of the now convicted ringleader of the scandal, Amy Bach. And that trial also exposed multiple communications they had with Congresswoman Ilhan Omar's staff. For example, in February 2021, there was an email chain between Bach and Omar's office with the subject line, help with USDA food programs, the same programs that were targeted by the fraudsters for more than $250 million. A couple weeks later, Bach sent Idlay an email with the subject line, Ilhan's office. There was also a string of text messages between Bach and Omar's staff. What did all of those messages say? Well, we don't know that because they were sealed by the court. And when Minnesota lawmakers investigating the fraud requested Congresswoman Omar to turn those records related to her office's contacts with individuals who've been charged or convicted in the scheme, she refused.
It's not like a one-off. She has relationships with many of those who have been convicted or charged in this scheme. So I think it's absolutely relevant that we get to the truth of what those communications with her office were.
So while Omar keeps denying knowledge and refusing to hand over the records, the questions keep piling up. Now the spotlight shifts from fraud probe to Omar's own rhetoric with a clip that says a lot about where her loyalties are. Somalia is the best. We love Somalia. We don't care what you think about us. Donald Trump does not judge us. Come on. Almost there. Well, maybe another day. All right. Ilhan Omar mocking dumb Americans for voting for Trump.
These people are just idiots. I really, I'm at the point where it's become really hard to have an intellectual debate with any of these people. The dumbing of the United States has arrived because how else do we get a Trump presidency again?
The last time the Alien Enemies Act was invoked, it was used to detain and deport German, Japanese, Italian immigrants during World War XI.
World War XI. So after calling Trump voters idiots and serving up World War XI, Omar's critics say the arrogance never stopped. Now here's President Trump unloading on Minnesota corruption, putting Omar's name right at the center of it.
How about in Minnesota, They come from Somalia, but they come from all over. They're all crooked in Minnesota. The governor's crooked. The attorney general's a crook. He's a thief. Terrible guy. All stupid, crooked people. And they came in from, in this case, Somalia is just terrible. A lot of people say it's the worst country anywhere in the world. They have no money, no nothing. They have no government. They have no police. They just shoot each other all day long. It's just pure bedlam. Probably the worst, most dangerous country. We have some beauties. They go to Minnesota, and they stole $19 billion. $19 billion. And they're low IQ. Generally, I mean, I can generalize. They're low IQ people. They're bad people. They have 94% unemployment. In other words, they don't want to work. You know, get a lot of jobs available, right, with the economy. They don't want to work. Why would they work? And they sold more Mercedes-Benzes than any state in the union, because they come here with no money, and they go out, they love a Mercedes-Benz, and they go out and buy Mercedes-Benzes. And I think you're going to get to the bottom of it real easy, and every one of them should be. And Ilhan Omar, who married her husband, married her brother became her husband. When she has to check a book, she says, any brothers? One. Any husband? One. She checks 2 people. So on top of everything else, she gets a double income tax cut. She's a stone cold crook, and everybody knows it. And the papers, they have one paper out in particular. The guy made a living writing about her, and I spoke to him. He said, but nobody does anything about it, sir. All you have to do is get his writings from the Indianapolis Star or whatever paper he works for. You don't even have to do anything. This guy spent 10 years investigating that crook, and you got to do something about it, or our people are going to get they're already upset. Takes too long. So, JD, you go do it, and Russell, you better do it.
So Trump laying out the corruption case the way millions of Americans see it, bluntly, without apology. Next, Greg Gutfeld takes the anger a step further, asking the question the media never wants to ask: who is protecting Ilhan Omar?
What? Is this what I have to do until I fill out that my sheet? I don't know what I'm doing here.
This is the best. She doesn't even answer any of the questions. A simple question. Who's protecting her? Why are they protecting her? She married her sibling. She's an alleged fraudster. She's implicated in a ton of cases. I just want her to remove the headscarf and see if she has a Nazi symbol on it, because that would be the trifecta. But if she's had to testify on her own behalf, what can we do? I wish we had a lawyer here that could tell me what we can do. Can she be arrested? How hard is this? If mafia bosses went away for less. She's the perfect example of a trickster who exploited the system, paralyzed by identity politics. That's why when she's being implicated in all this, she's calm, cool, and collected. She thinks she's going to get off.
Yeah. But Greg, that nice kid sitting there in the back, he's just a high school student.
So the moral center of the scandal sits inside 2 short phrases: help with USDA food programs and Ilhan's office. Not rumors, not smoke. Specific communications tied to the exact pipeline that crooks used to loot money meant for hungry kids. And when that ugly trail started pointing towards a sitting member of Congress, Ilhan Omar did not clear the air by releasing everything. Minnesota Democrats blocked scrutiny. They protected the records. They hid behind procedure. That tells you the whole rotten story. Ilhan Omar mocks Americans as idiots, but she expects the public to ignore the emails, ignore the extradition, ignore the subpoena blockade, and salute while the cartel closes ranks. No. The walls are tightening, and now every arrest makes the cover-up look smaller, uglier, and more desperate. President Trump called out the Minnesota corruption machine long before the legacy media stopped laughing and started reading the indictments. That's the win here. America First voters saw the pattern. The regime press buried it. Now Abdul Karim Aidil sits in Somalia awaiting extradition. Amy Bach's trial has already blown open the communications trail, and Ilhan Omar still cannot outrun those subject lines or her party's subpoena blockade. So here's the demand tonight. subpoena every record, unseal every communication that can be legally released, drag every staff contact into the light, and stop pretending identity politics cancels accountability. Hungry kids got robbed. Minnesota Democrats protect the apparatus. Ilhan Omar sneered at Trump voters while ducking transparency herself. If you're sick of watching connected Democrats hide behind moral blackmail, send this segment to one person who still thinks that this was just a big misunderstanding. The names are on the trail now, and the country deserves the rest of the file. And you deserve the news when you ask for it. I've read your comments, I understand your frustration, and that's why I personally set up this entire system to make sure you get the notifications that never arrive from YouTube. Thousands and thousands of patriots have already signed up, and they are on the inside track. I want you to be on the inside track too. All you have to do is text the words raw feed to 844-840-4963. And I will send you the notifications personally. One text message a night. And since we're at the 250th year of this great republic, celebrate with us by going to the merch shelf below this video or shop.nextnewsnetwork.com. Oh, when will there be justice for Ilhan Omar? I know you guys are just as frustrated as I am. But it seems like things are slowly starting to move. Once this guy gets extradited to this country, maybe he'll sing like a bird. Maybe he will point directly at Ilhan Omar. That's what we can all hope. Maybe he'll try to get, a plea bargain, a lenient sentence if he hands over Ilhan. That's what I'm praying for. So just give it time, folks. And speaking of time, the clock is ticking towards the midterms. And we're going to talk about some historic events that are going to be taking place this year before the midterms kick off. September 9th and 10th, Dallas, Texas. And one sentence from Donald Trump just blew up the consultant class. For the first time ever, the Republican Party will hold a midterm convention. That's not a rally. That's not a donor dinner. That is Trump grabbing the midterms by the throat before Hakeem Jeffries, Chuck Schumer, and the dead media parasites even know what hit them. He paired the announcement with a promise to celebrate the great American comeback. When the America First wins, the regime swore would never happen. Now add the Supreme Court smashing spending limits on parties the same day, and you can feel the panic already. See, this matters because Trump just built the exact machine weak Republicans never built. A turnout machine, a message machine, and a governing machine at the same time. Dallas is not random. Trump chose a city big enough to turn a convention into a national call-up for workers, first responders, manufacturers, small business owners, innovators, and every voter who cashed in on America First victories like no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security, stronger borders, safer communities, and energy dominance. He is converting policy wins into electoral muscle. In the timing, it hits like a hammer. The Supreme Court ruled in NRSC versus the FEC. That's the FECA's coordinated expenditure limit violate the First Amendment. Translation, the old speech choke collar that protected incumbents and boxed in party coordination just got ripped off. Democrats spent years rigging the rules to suffocate populist energy. Now that wall is cracking just as Democrats face a cash problem, Republicans sit on major resources. That's why the media want you sleepy. Trump wants you mobilized. See, Trump picked Dallas because winning requires resources and urgency. And the same logic applies to your own future. Now think about it. If you could have bought oil before the world depended on it, you would. Noble Gold Investments says silver is the next oil and deserves the same look. It's a critical resource in solar panels, electric vehicles, defense systems, AI infrastructure, and massive data centers. Growing demand keeps climbing, yet silver is still affordable. so the average American can start accumulating physical silver and protect against inflation with strategic resources and the metal the future depends on. Go to nextnewsgold.com, and when you mention my name and open a new qualified account, Noble Gold will send you a 1/10 ounce gold coin. Noble Gold gets where this fight is headed, and Trump is moving early for a reason. So one detail makes this even sharper, and most people missed it. The Supreme Court case did not just hand Republicans more room to fight. The slip opinion, it spells out that at the start of the litigation, then candidate for Senate J.D. Vance had standing, and Vice President Vance still maintains an active statement of candidacy for a Senate run in 2028. Read that again. The Trump-Vance movement did not wait for permission from the FEC priesthood. It kept pressing until the court smashed the rule. And hold that thought, because I'm going to show you the tweets that are pouring into the newsroom, and it's going to show you exactly why this matters. So President Trump now confirming he and the Republican Party will be hosting a midterm convention in Texas in September. A new concept in modern history. Trump wants to amp up voters for the midterms. We're going to celebrate the great American comeback and the incredible success of the American people who transformed our country through the America First agenda. It will be held on September 9th and 10th in Dallas, Texas. So President Trump posting on Truth Social, I'll read part of it. He says, big news, for the first time ever, the Republican Party will hold a midterm convention. It'll be in Dallas, Texas, one of my favorite places. It'll be fantastic. It's never been done. It'll be historic. We're going to celebrate the great American comeback and the incredible success of the American people who transformed our country through the America First agenda. No tax on tips, no tax on overtime, Social Security, strong borders, safest ever communities, lower costs, real affordability, more jobs, American energy dominance, and so much more. Oil prices are dropping even as we denuclearize Iran. We're delivering on the promises that politicians talked about for decades but never got done. At the event, we will have hardworking Americans, innovators, entrepreneurs, manufacturers, first responders, job creators who are powering our nation's golden age and proving America's best days are still ahead of us. So Trump laying it out himself. Dallas, September, all-out America First rally to fire up the base. Now, here's Brett Baer with the straight news angle on why Republicans see this first ever midterm convention as key to protecting the razor-thin majorities.
Republicans will hold their first ever national convention ahead of the midterm elections. President Trump making that announcement just moments ago on Truth Social. The event is an effort to boost turnout in races that will decide whether the Republican Party maintains control of Congress. Republicans have only slim majorities in the House and the Senate. The convention will be held in Dallas, September 9th and 10th.
So Fox frames this as a turnout play to hold Congress. Real America's Voice takes it a step further, with Mike Davis arguing Trump is going on offense while Democrats are flat-footed.
Yeah, all right. A little breaking news. Just a few minutes ago, President Trump broke another tradition. He, for the first time, a major political party is going to have an off-year convention. It's going to be in September in Dallas. The midterms are going to be kicked off on the Republican side with a convention, something the Democrats have no plans for. Another way that Trump breaks the mold and does something different. Your thoughts on that big announcement just a few seconds ago?
I love it. President Trump always finds a way to go on offense, and this is a way to go on offense. People think that we're just going to sit back and lose this midterm election like off parties. The president's party doing off-year elections. We're going to fight. We did a fantastic job largely winning the redistricting fight. We're going to stay on offense, and Republicans are going to pull the rabbit out of the hats and keep the House and keep the Senate after this midterm election.
So the offensive mindset may be getting back up from the courts. ABC reports the Supreme Court just knocked down spending limits on party coordination with federal candidates before the midterms. Supreme Court has rolled back long-standing limits on the amount of money political parties can spend in coordination with individual candidates for federal office, a ruling that could unleash a new wave of spending before the midterms. So ABC gives you the ruling Now the political math, Dustin Grage, says the decision could be a game changer because Democrats are cash-strapped while Republicans are sitting on some serious money. He says Republicans may have just won the midterms with this decision. There are no longer federal limits on how much money a political party can spend in coordination with their candidates. Democrats have more debt than cash on hand, while Republicans have hundreds of millions on hand. And here is the ruling from the Supreme Court. So more money helps, but cash alone doesn't win fights. Next, Ralph Reed delivers a blunt warning that Democrats are mobilizing hard and Republicans better match the intensity.
They are coming, and they are coming in the biggest numbers we have ever seen in a midterm election, and they are coming with unlimited resources. Unlimited. Do you know, as we gather here tonight, that 4 million more Democrats have voted in primaries than Republicans? 12.6 million Democrats, 8.6 million Republicans. In my home state of Georgia, more Democrats than Republicans voted in a gubernatorial primary for the first time in 24 years. And they didn't even have a contest. They didn't really even have a competitive primary. That's an indication of what's coming. So we need to leave here and rededicate ourselves that we will work even harder than we did in 2024. Because if we don't, they will win the House, they will win the Senate, and the Trump presidency will be over after 2 years. They will investigate him, they will impeach him, subpoenas will fly in this city like heat-seeking missiles.
So his message is simple. Work harder or watch the left swarm the field. Steve Bannon now raises his stakes, warning this movement needs maximum action now because the other side is coming for everything.
And I will tell you right now, as God is my witness, if we lose the midterms and we lose 2028, some in this room are going to prison, myself included. They're not going to stop. They're getting more and more and more radical. And we have to counter that. And what do we have to counter it with? We have to counter it with more action, more intense action, more urgency. We're burning daylight. If you look across every aspect of this, we have to codify what President Trump has done by executive order, right? We have to codify it. And people say, well, they're just going to be messing bills and pass Senate. We got to put aside these structural barriers and get on with it. President Trump today gave to the Senate when they came over for breakfast. Even Lindsey Graham, some of the guys that liked, and some of these institutions, I understand. This is a very tough decision to make. And you're going to see some people in the conservative movement that not in a million years, because I talked to him today, quite frankly, I had Hawley on the show this morning. Josh Hawley, and he's talking about it, and I'm trying to play the institution. Well, they called me up this afternoon and said, let's go through the 10 reasons we need to do it, and these are heavy hitters on what I would call the constitutional, the limited government constitutionalist in our movement. And they're about to come out over the next couple of days and make this argument because they said, look, we have to understand that if we don't take this to the maximum, a maximalist strategy now with a sense of urgency, and in doing this, seize the institutions. If we don't do that now, we're going to lose this chance forever because you're never going to have another Trump, right? You're just not going to have it.
You're not going to have another Trump or another chance to save this republic. So here's the moral hit. Democrats and their media bodyguards wanted Republicans trapped in the old script. Sleepwalk into an off-year election. Mumble stale talking points, let the donor class run the map, and pray Trump's momentum carries everybody. Well, Donald Trump just torched that script. He announced the first ever GOP midterm convention in Dallas, September 9th and 10th. And on the same day, the Supreme Court blew up a restriction that the Federal Election Commission and the Democrat machine used to choke coordinated political speech. Chuck Schumer wants paralysis. Hakeem Jeffries wants chaos and subpoenas. Trump wants mobilization. He's not waiting for permission from consultants or cocktail circuit frauds. He's building the battlefield before the enemy finish lacing its boots. So treat this story like the opening gun, because that's exactly what it is. Trump did not announce Dallas to entertain cable bookers. He announced Dallas to turn the great American comeback into votes, volunteers, money, and pressure on every race that decides whether America First keeps governing or whether Democrats seize a chamber and launch impeachment theater all over again. Ralph Reed put the numbers on the threat. Steve Bannon put person and subpoena urgency on the threat. Trump answered with action, early action, bold action, the kind of action Republicans should have taken years ago. September 9th and 10th now stand on the calendar like a test. Do Republicans coast because the news feels good, or do patriots lock in these wins and widen the majority? Drop your take in the comments and send this to one person who still thinks the midterms are far away. And keep your eyes on Dallas. That city just became the front line. And you're also the front line. And that's why I want to make sure you are informed. That's why I set up this telephone number for you. 844-840-4963. Thousands of patriots have already texted the words raw feed to that number because they're the front line. They're getting the notifications that YouTube never sends because I'm sending them directly to them. Join the front line by staying on the inside track with the news that matters to you and your family. And we're at the 250th birthday for this great republic. Celebrate with us by going to the merch shelf below this video or checking out something at shop.nextnewsnetwork.com. The midterms are serious, guys. Very, very serious. If we lose, it's over. This administration is done. The end of the Trump presidency. Just because we have all these redistricting wins doesn't mean anything. We have to get out the vote, we have to support our candidates, and we have to crush it at the ballot box. And speaking of crushing it, we're gonna go to New York, where a bizarre event unfolded at 1,400 feet. We've got the details and the outcome. A masked couple climbed 1,454 feet up the Empire State Building, unfurled a syrupy banner that read, "When the power of love beats the love of power, the world will know peace." Then turned the spire into a marriage proposal set. It happened in Manhattan on one of America's most iconic buildings, while police and rescue crews had to scramble because two black-clad narcissists wanted Netflix-grade attention and ring selfies above the city. This was not romance. It was a branded trespass wrapped in fake morality. And when you hear who those two are, the whole stunt gets even uglier. And the stakes here is order, basic order. Working people obey the law, pay their taxes, and trust that a landmark like the Empire State Building will not get hijacked by masked exhibitionists chasing clicks. Then Angela Nicolau and Ivan Birkus, the pair tied to the 2024 Netflix documentary Skywalker's A Love Story, turned that building into a prop, force NYPD and emergency crews into motion, and dump the risk on first responders for what? A gooey slogan, a proposal, selfies on top of the spire. The same activist performance disease keeps spreading because the media keeps dressing up juvenile lawlessness as lifestyle content. One source captured the exact obscenity. She was taking selfies of the ring while cops dealt with the fallout below. That's the culture rot. Vanity at the top, responsibility at the bottom. In a sane city, security never gets humiliated like this. In a sane media culture, nobody calls this daring or romantic. They call it what it is. reckless trespassing that invites the next idiot to go even higher and fall even harder. When mass climbers can turn the Empire State Building into a prop, you learn fast how confusion protects the wrong people. Medicare works the same way. The Medicare confusion industrial complex buries seniors in noise so they get stuck. Chapter cuts through it. It's simple by design. One call, one advisor, under 20 minutes. They look at your doctors, look at your prescriptions, your whole situation, and tell you the truth with no propaganda, just facts. Clarity matters when systems profit by keeping people overwhelmed. They work for you, not big insurance. If you're already on the right plan, they'll say so. If not, they'll help you switch. It's free, and last year, people who found new plans with Chapter saved an average of $1,100. So call Chapter now at the number on your screen, 910-728-4109. Clarity beats chaos, and America needs a lot more of it. Now here's the detail that blows up the fairy tale spin. This was not some spontaneous burst of young love above Manhattan. The pair were identified as Angela Nicolau and Ivan Birkus, the same names tied to Netflix Skywalker's A Love Story. So the World Peace banner, the mask, the black outfits, the proposal, the selfies, the camera-ready staging at 1,400 feet, that all starts looking less like romance and more like a pre-packaged brand activation with cops forced into the supporting cast. And you're about to see it all. The chaos unfolded today in New York. Two people climbing the top of the Empire State Building, unfurling a flag on top.
Yes, that is the top of the Empire State Building. I am not from New York, but maybe my producers can kind of let me know. Whoever is familiar with the Empire State Building, you can educate me while I'm on the air. What is access to the top of this building? Are you, if you come to visit the Empire State Building, how far are you allowed to go? Do you buy tickets? I went there once as a child. I don't remember, but I'm curious how these two got up there. So it is an observation deck. Okay, so they are at the observation deck, but this is not an area where you're allowed to go up to where the antenna is. But they clearly got to the observation deck. They've moved their way up to the top of the antenna. I'm being told it's a man and a woman protesting at the top of the Empire State Building. The banner reads, "When the power of love beats the love of power, the world knows peace." 204 feet tall, that antenna. So we don't know much about these two individuals, except that this is a pretty risky move, folks. And clearly we've got a live shot. We don't know what exactly they're protesting, what has driven them to get to the top of Empire State Building. But we do have our chief investigative correspondent, Aaron Katursky, on the line. Aaron, I don't know if you're finding out anything about this man and this woman. Is this, a serious protest? Is this a stunt? Is this something? So many questions here. But bottom line, it's dangerous, and we are monitoring it live.
It is incredibly dangerous. It is likely a criminal trespassing situation. The NYPD is looking at the same images that we are, Kira, showing two people unfurling a banner at the top of the Empire State Building at a time when the NYPD has just started working 12-hour shifts and trying to blanket the city in security in anticipation of all the events tied to the 4th of July and America's 250th birthday. This is not something that the NYPD wants to see. I'm not sure how they're going to get them down. They are certainly going to be arrested once they are down and taken into custody. But the message of love, or whatever the banner says, is clearly meant to draw cameras. These two people have certainly drawn plenty of attention with a stunt like this. You can see there on the observation deck of the Empire State Building that tourists are there as usual, whether they're aware even that somebody may be on top of the spire of the Empire State Building. It would be difficult to see from that vantage point, but tourists are up there all the time. This is clearly a breach in security and something the NYPD is now aware of. I've been texting with sources, Kira, and they're watching the same pictures we are.
I am terrified of heights. I see videos like this, and my skin starts to crawl. Even like just watching a video of somebody on a spire or looking over an edge. No frickin' way. So thinking about how these two people are on top of that spire, and it appears they have no safety harnesses. I'm freaking out just watching that. So that was the first scramble as cameras caught the two masked climbers. Now here's a tighter look of the breach. Police and emergency crews rushing in below. Oh my goodness, look at this shot, please. Good God. That is just the most terrifying visual. Oh my goodness. It's one hand he's holding him. Oh, one false move and they're dead. Absolutely stupid. I mean, I can't even. So the banner was up. Stunt gets its headlines. The whole thing already looking reckless. Now it gets even more absurd. One of the masked climbers turns the trespass into a marriage proposal.
Specifically has an anti-climbing ordinance, by the way. You can't climb a building over 50 feet high. That is a misdemeanor, punishable by up to 1 year in jail, plus a fine. Disorderly for God's sake.
Now.
Great. Well, they can consummate the marriage in jail.
Apparently,
Just
they don't do it here.
waste of time.
You can visibly see her taking selfies of the ring. I was just told. So,
it's happening.
Get married and go to jail.
And dress in black for the occasion.
With masks on. Who wouldn't want a proposal in a mask?
Yeah, by the way, why are they wearing masks?
This better not inspire anyone else.
Maybe that is Taylor and Kelsey. We don't know this.
Oh, stop it.
And by the way, at a time also when you have the uniformed police department cutting back their uniformed officers, you know, you guys just went through the litany of things going on.
Oh, my Lord. So you saw the proposal. The real story is ego and the danger dumped on first responder. Next, local coverage calling it an engagement for world peace, while the pair pose on top of the spire. Fox 26 Houston. So the World Peace Theater is one thing. Down the street, the city is forced to treat it like a real emergency. NYPD and rescue units stacking outside the building. So while gawkers gathered below, the cops moved in. The internet zeroed in on the money shot. Next, another raw clip of the pair kissing and hanging that cringe banner. Kissing daredevils scale the Empire State Building.
Alright, so real quick, there's a guy on top of that Empire State Building. And he's deciding to use his free will to do this. This is...
So it wasn't some romantic impulse caught by chance. Next comes the identity reveal. The couple appears to be tied to a Netflix documentary. Angela Nicolau and Ivan Burkus, the couple released a Netflix documentary called 2024 Skywalkers, A Love Story. They supposedly found love thousands of feet in the sky, illegally scaling the world's tallest buildings. So,
for God's sake.
Now.
Great. Well, they can consummate the marriage in jail.
No. Apparently,
Just
they don't do it here.
waste of time.
You can visibly see her taking selfies of the ring, I was just told. So,
I mean, it's happening.
So get married and go to jail.
And dress in black for the occasion.
With masks on. Who wouldn't want a proposal in a mask?
Yeah, by the way, why are they wearing masks?
This better not inspire.
So now the stunt has names and a backstory. Looks a lot more like a calculated self-promotion than spontaneous love. Next, the ending they earned, both climbers taken into NYPD custody and hauled away. The couple who climbed the top of the Empire State Building were just loaded into NYPD paddy wagon, hidden from gawkers by a shuttered loading dock gate, and then driven away down 33rd Street. A police spokesman says the two were taken into custody. There it is. That's the end of their love story. So the load-bearing fact in this whole circus is not the banner, it's the proposal. Angela Nicolau and Ivan Birkus climbed onto the spire of the Empire State Building in masks, dangled their fake deep line about love and power, then sealed the stunt with a ring and selfies while first responders stood below cleaning up their vanity project. That detail strips away every excuse. They didn't break into expose corruption. They did not save anybody. They sold themselves. They turned a 1,400-foot security breach into content, and then NYPD hauled both of them into custody through a shuttered loading dock gate and down 33rd Street in a paddy wagon. Good. The handcuffs fit the story better than the engagement ring ever did. So here is the line that every mayor, police commissioner, and media outlet ought to hear. Stop glamorizing this garbage, charge them, enforce every trespass and anti-climbing law in the books, bill them for the disruption if the city can, and stop feeding the next attention addict the fantasy that a mask, a slogan, and a camera can turn criminal stupidity into romance. The Empire State Building is not a Netflix backdrop for narcissists. It's an American landmark. First responders are not extras in somebody else's vanity reel. They're the people who pay the price when unserious fame chasers blow up a city block with a stunt. If you're sick of watching lawlessness get marketed as art, send this segment to somebody who still thinks this was cute. Let them defend the mask, the spire, the banner, and the paddy wagon. We will defend the order. And we'll also defend your right to get the news. And that's why we set up this telephone number just for you. And thousands of patriots are already getting the news. They're on the inside track. Don't miss out. Text raw feed to 844-840-4963. I want to make sure you're getting the news that you depend on. When YouTube doesn't send you notifications, I will send them to you personally, one text message a night. And make sure you're celebrating the wins with the Next News Network by going to the merch shelf below this video or shop.nextnewsnetwork.com. All right, folks, that is a wrap for the broadcast tonight. Thank you for joining us on Between the Headlines on Next News on X, as well as Trump Daily Posts on X, and our flagship YouTube channel that we've had since 2012. Yes, 2012. Over 2 billion views, over 2 million followers. That's where we post all of our content. So make sure you're following us on all platforms, including Rumble and Kick. Make sure you're getting the text messages from our text message system. Again, I'll put that number on the screen if you missed it. But make sure you're doing that. Make sure you get on that list. And we'll catch you all tomorrow. So have a wonderful evening. God bless you, and God bless America.